Welcome to the middle session. Um, I feel now like a car driver, driving school car instructor. How many of you remember your driving school instructor? You actually do. You obviously was a negative experience, right? But I mean, generally, when you pass through your driving school instructor, you kind of learn a skill that you think you always knew, and yeah, then you forget the person because there's no consequence. So this session here is about no consequence. So I'm going to do some things with you now that you'll feel that is totally useless, that will totally waste your time. As long as you pick up one fact and one idea, I will be more than happy. I guarantee you that you will pick up one fact and one idea. All right. So my premise in life is that I think that everybody's desktop should be the Google search bar. That's all. You shouldn't have anything else. Your screen, your desktop should default to the Google search bar, and whatever you do, you can possibly do it. I've conducted an experiment with myself. It was a fantastically random sample. It had all the scientific integrity, and yes, it worked. And all my hypotheses were true. Not that I asked any questions. The only question I asked myself was, can I live in a Google search bar? And can I do almost everything that I wanted to do? And the answer was overwhelmingly yes. And I'm going to show you how now, right? So let's just look at this. So you got this boring little search bar there. So what I want you to do now, just so that we can see all of the things that I'm really interested in and what I do in my office, these are the types of things that we're going to do. So one of the most important things is to see what it can do, right? I'm not going to bore you with a lot of detail, but most of it is intuitive, right? You type what you want to search, and then it comes up with a few things. It comes up with a whole lot of ads on the right-hand side to confuse you or annoy you. And then it gives you the number of words that it searched, the time that it took, and there's some things about where it searched and what it looked and stuff like that. I think this is very familiar, so I'm not even going to talk about it too much. But it's in there if you want to read about it. So I want you now, all of you, if you can, just launch your search bar, your browser, your new favorite browser that has been decreed by Randy to be Firefox. I'm not saying anything, I'm just saying. Right, so just launch it and launch Google and type Zergrush if you can, whatever that means. Yeah, whatever that means, just type it. There's obviously not too many old people here, Victor. And if you don't know what Zergrush is, well, when you go home this afternoon, you can find out what it is. But type it now, see what happens. Is it doing anything for you? It's doing something for me, I think. Right? Now, I was grumbling to Victor yesterday that the thing that annoys me about Google is its lack of documentation. It is so badly documented. And of course, he pointed out to me, and correctly so as well, is that Google likes to think that everything they do is intuitive. So you figure it out. So they will figure that you will figure it out. And of course, then I morph this one favorite saying of mine, which I always tell people, you don't know what you don't know until you know it, right? So Zergrush is one of the things that was absolutely inconsequential in your life. You can now go and impress your little niece and nephew at home. Apart from that, it has no value in your life, right? So talking about no value in your life, I'm going to do one more thing with no value, and then we'll do some hopefully some reasonably serious things, all right? So can you type the next one for me, if you can? Can you type the word Atari Breakout in the search bar? We're getting to your age now, dear. And once you type that, would you mind clicking on the word images? I can hear it already, so somebody's playing. Okay. So I'm now contributing to productivity at UKZN. I'm really impressed. I'm very proud of the fact that what I really want you to do is that instead of going onto Facebook and doing all those and typing all those rubbish that you type, why don't you play breakout instead and have a rest? And your mind will think and you'll be much more relaxed at the end of the session than actually trying to be smart and online all the time. Isn't this cool? Right? I told you this was going to be an inconsequential lecture. Let me redeem myself quickly before you guys think I'm totally nuts. All right, so guys, I don't know why, but I suppose I know why, because I mean, it's only the engineers and the computer science people that actually understand this word and not an or, right? And why that is the case, I don't know. Randy will have to write a paper on that and explain to me. But when Google does searching for you, all right, you can stop playing now. Press escape. Right. So when Google does searching for you, it assumes that you know what you're looking for. So sometimes you will type the name of your favorite person or your favorite cause or something inconsequential like Liverpool or something great like Manchester United. You can do all of those, you know, you can do all of those things, right? And you get your cause. But sometimes you're looking for a pair of causes. And of course, we all know this, right? You use the word and. How many of you knew that when you do a Google search, you actually have to use capital A and D? Now be honest now. Okay? So if you don't use a capital letter in your search between the two terms or phrases that you are searching, you're actually searching for all of those words. So you're searching for if you're looking for A and B, Google will look for A and B, A and B. Because you look for all combinations of that search there. So rule of engagement would do the Google search bar. If you're looking for and, it must be capital A and D. If you're looking for not, it must be capital N-O-T. And if it must be or, it's capital O-R. Right? Just trust me that it's true. Okay? You can try it yourself at your leisure. Just in the interest of time, I want to show you a nice Google Scholar one just now, which is why you got the printout, right? So please do that. By the way, Google is also very clever. Sometimes it figures out that the A and D that you type is actually capital A and D. But as a good practicing academic, you should always formally use capital A and D. Like, remember I told you, you're going to know these things and never ever remember who told you. And that is precisely the point. Don't remember the person, remember the task. Okay? So we just now I'm going to be talking to you about, I wanted to talk about male infertility and male fertility, but I thought that it would be too much to one particular person because who planted that seed in my head, not that type of seed, but that seed in my head last night about searching and contextual searches. So I came up with a nice little search that we are going to go through together so we can learn about how to do searches just now. But a couple of things are going to happen to you in your life this year, next year, or soon. All of you are going to apply for promotion, for associate professor, for completion of your PhD, for the position of a postdoc, for another faculty position at another university, etc. Right? You are at that stage of your life, many of you. And the thing is, generally you know kind of who that person in that university is going to be interviewing you, or you will know who you're going to be reporting to if you get the job, okay? And then what happens at that particular time in your life is you ask yourself, well, how do I actually find out about those people? And you have to do what they do to you. They are Googling you, they are searching for you on all the social media platforms. They are looking to see what moves you, what moves your cheese, what team do you support, what are the causes that you support, and then they find out about you. So when they come to the interview, they're going to ask you questions about things that make them unhappy or uncertain or unclear. Or they will just simply send you a regret letter without even talking to you. Some of you may know this anecdote, and I have to tell you this because it's important. The Auditor General position in South Africa is one of the most important positions. It's like the public protector, right? He's the money man in the country, and he makes sure that there's compliance across the country. The guy who was going to get the job was a senior partner in PricewaterhouseCoopers. He had a double master's degree, was a senior partner, was a shoo-in to get the job because he had worked for SARS before, so he understood the whole money business. So when Parliament interviewed him, it was like a game. 5 people were shortlisted, but they went through the process, laughing at each other, kidding each other, apologizing to him because, look, we have to go through this, you know. He said, yes, I know. He thought he got the job, and they thought he got the job. So it was one of those things that you go through. The other 4 people sitting outside nervously, knowing they're not going to get the job. You know, it was that type of shoo-in. So the chairman of the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee, while sitting there, got bored. She decided to Facebook him. So she Facebooked him, connected to got onto his wall, and what was there? Pictures of women and men in compromising positions with not much clothes on. Now, that in itself is not a bad thing, but this is a man applying for the Auditor General position. Secondly, other people posted things on his wall, bad-mouthing other political parties. Again, no consequence because that was his friend, not him. But it was his wall. He neither hid it, he neither deleted it, he neither revoked it, he neither attacked them, he neither defended the position, or he neither pledged neutrality. He did none of the above. So from being first in the queue, out of 5 people, he was 7th. He lost his job in real time. And he knew at that moment when the chairman, when a hand went up and she said, look at this, he knew at that moment that he lost the job. So when I'm telling you about what you're going to do and what you're going to find out, this is not a joke about that. So you're not only going to be finding out things about yourself, but you're also going to be finding things about your cause and things like that. So I got this little thing here, right? I want you to try these Google searches. You can try that right now. And some of you may have heard of Alan Khan. He's a radio DJ who used to be quite famous on 604 in the old days. And then he joined Radio Jacaranda, and now he's at the UT with us. But he left Radio Jacaranda, so he left. So when he was coming to join DUT, I just wanted to know something about him in his previous place. So that was what I typed in to find out about him. Now, you may want to find out about Ravi Danpat, but not at UKZN, because you know about him here. What was this mysterious man doing in his previous life? Where did he run away from? What job did he lose? How did he get here? Right? Isn't that so? What was Randy doing at UCT before he got here? We don't know. Let's find out. Right? So those are the types of things that you can do. So you type that information and you type Alan Khan, simple, DUT. And that will tell you all about this man in that particular context. Now, why do you want to do that? Because when you are going for an interview with Rabi at Teaching and Learning, you're going for a job at Teaching and Learning. You don't want to know whether he can play the guitar. It might help, but you really want to know what teaching and learning means and what does Rabi do in the context of teaching and learning, because that is where you're going to filter in. So when you do conceptual searches like this, it helps you to figure out the person and the process that you're looking for. So again, when you're looking at your own cause or your own research area, you might want to be looking at the Medical Research Council. But which aspect of the Medical Research Council are you looking for? You might only want to search the Medical Research Council website for HIV research. And you may not want, you may not want to know anything about Slim Karim because he publishes too much, and you want to know about other researchers in that area. So you might want to look at the Medical Research Council minus him. In other words, excluding him. Can you do that? Is that possible? So if you had to do this, for instance, you can try it, guys. If you type Rabi Danpat and you type minus UKZN, it should theoretically give you your search without many references, not any. Any is a difficult thing because the search is quite exhaustive. And for other reasons, it might put it in there. But what this does to you, it allows you to search for somebody. Who hasn't heard of Gary Player here? Okay, so we all heard of Gary Player. So we know that the whole world knows about Gary Player. But what does the world outside South Africa think about Gary Player? We know that everyone loves Chris Barnard in this country and knows him and knows what he did. What does the rest of the world think about him? So you can actually start isolating your searches for a particular criteria just using the minus sign. And please, when you use the minus sign, no space between the minus and the word that you're looking for. Okay? Have you tried that? Right? When Ahmed Bawa joined us at DUT from, I mean, Ahmed and I go back a very, very long time. When he joined us from Hunter's College in New York, I didn't know what he was doing there. So I did that. And I asked him, what were you doing there? Now you can find out about his life at DUT. You can find out about his life at the University of Natal. You can find out about his life at Hunters College. And now you can find out about his life at University of South Africa. So you can find out about a particular person in a particular context. And that's a very, very useful thing to know, especially if you are about to meet the person or engage with the person or apply for a job. Remember that, right? And start formalistically if you wanted to do it, right? Formalistically. If you wanted to know what the Mail and Guardian newspaper in particular ever said about Ahmed Bauer, you would put the word Ahmed Bauer there and you typed it there. The cite command is very, very, very important to you in your tool. You will find out where the custodians of a particular piece of knowledge is. In Randy's case, from an educational point of view, it will be EXA, the Engineering Council of South Africa, right? So if Randy wants to know what the academic quality or the academic requirements are for a particular student in 2018 or 2017 or 2012 or 2010, what were the rules in 2012 for a person who became an engineer? He could go to the EXA website and say cite:/EXA and say rules for graduating. So now that'll give him, it'll search that particular website in a way before he phones them. So sometimes you want to find or engage your rule books at your university or your department or some way, you can interrogate your own website using the cite command and that. You want to try it quickly, people? I'll show you one. I'm very proud of this one, so I'm going to boast a little bit. My little daughter spent a 3 or 4 week intern at Mail and Guardian in a matric, after she finished matric. She just went there and worked as a rookie journalist, as it were. And she wrote one article. But she's now an author of a newspaper one article. So if you type her name and you type www, that thing there, you'll find that article. So what I'm saying, people, is that you'll have friends and cousins and colleagues and neighbors and people you dislike intensely, and you want to find out why they do well and those type of things. You can use that command to find out about people. And notice in this particular case, I said Mail and Guardian. You could change it to Independent Online, IOL, right? You could look at your UKZN Indaba, is it? The Indaba magazine, so you could type the Indaba magazine as a website. Now, what this does is it gives you a way of searching for things in contexts that Google might not give you. Because Google is not going to go and look at every single place like this. Now here you're doing a contextual cite check for a particular thing. Okay? 2 days ago, Victor told me a name of an author. I wrote it in my little black book. And that book is still with me, so I don't have a problem with that. And I go home, I will add it to my list, and I'll Google that author, and I'm going to read her work. But sometimes somebody mentions a book or a title, and you know it's in the title, but you can't do that, and you just don't know how to look for it, and you don't search the whole body of the text. In that case, you can use this thing called the in title. And an in title helps you to find only on the body of knowledge of that. Right? And I put this deliberately as a Word document so you guys can work through it, on your own and start looking for your own contextual search. The reason I'm not doing it with you right now is because I'm going to go through a fairly comprehensive example of a search with you. This one I really like. Those of you that are in social sciences, I actually put that one up there for Ravi. You know that Google for a long time has committed itself to putting all the newspapers in the world online. Regrettably, they stopped it a few years ago. But if you are looking for archival information from the 80s and the 70s and the 60s, if you are looking for information about Steve Biko from the 1980s, 1970s, 1960, and if you use that particular command there, just as it is there, it will give you articles from the days when I was very young. Some of you were not born then. But I think you get the point, that you can really look for archival newspaper information by going to the Google site there. My mind, the minus sign is the least exploited and the least understood command on the Google search bar? How many of you use minus a lot? Randir, thank you. I knew you would, yeah. And rightly so too. And you agree that it is a very useful tool, right? So the trick here, people, is that sometimes you end up with a Slim Karim who writes so much that he overwhelms that body of knowledge. Now, overwhelming a body of knowledge doesn't mean contributing to a body of knowledge. Okay, I'm not criticizing him. If you take the very crude example of Einstein, if you think of the theory of relativity and you say Einstein, there's an automatic and association between the two. And it's very, very difficult to find anything on the theory of relativity without hearing his name or word. So, and that could happen also that your supervisor is the expert in that field. And every way you go to search, you find his name. So when you go back to him with your literature review, he sees his name or her name, and they get annoyed with you because you're not searching, they claim. I mean, it's not your fault that they are dominating in the field, right? So how do you now search for information without them? Because you want to be able to show them that actually I'm reading outside your field as well. So if you use the minus sign like that, and you type your area, and the minus sign, there's no space there, by the way, and you type minus that particular author's name, it'll allow you to find information without that author. I always use this to exclude the dominating contributor, not because I disrespect them, but because I want to look for emerging contributions by other people. And that's why the Slim Karim example is so good, because him and his wife published so much at the MRC, in terms of HIV and things like that. And sometimes you want to find out, is anybody else in this country doing it, right? So please do play with that. And there's another reason as well. Sometimes when you're looking for jaguar, the animal, you get jaguar, the car, right? And it annoys you because you really don't want to see the damn car. You want to see the animal. And and so just to reduce or delimit or reduce your search, you can use the minus sign there as well. If we type Nelson in this country, we're all going to Mandela. So if you can delimit it, if you're looking for other kinds of Nelsons, you would delimit it with the minus sign. Once again, people, I know I'm going fast through these things here, but you'll see that all in that little example. Normally I allow you to do these things here. I don't know if you know this, but this is another completely underutilized tool. We all use online searches to buy things and do things, but we kind of just, what we normally do is we go to the website and we type fridge and we look at the fridge and we look at macro, we look at game and we look at, I don't know who else. And you look at a few of these companies and then you decide and you go and buy it. But sometimes you have a budget. And it's only when you go to the shop floor that your budget kicks in and you start looking at the right place. But if you use this command here, just 2 dots. And 2 dots is like intuitive to us, right? So you can type the word there. So I made it too complicated, but if it says ... 1000, it means up to 1000. If it says 1000 ... it means more than 1000. So if I said 1000 ... 1500, I'm implying a range. Okay. So if you type the word laptop, or in your case smartphones space 5000 ... 8000. It'll tell you all the cell phones that are available in this country in the price range between 5,000 and 8,000. Okay, so it's a little bit of shopping for you, online shopping. This particular search is very, very strong in the US and the UK context. It's getting a lot of credibility as e-commerce kicks in this country. I use it a lot, and I must say I did it with a fair degree of success. I put a dollar price there. Sometimes I just put an R, right? But because Google is COSA, when you type Google, it automatically knows that you're looking for a RAND type thing. I'm going to do Google Scholar with you just now, but this one here, if you remember nothing else from today, how many of you use Alert? I know Randir would, right? Randir, you're naughty. How many of you use Alert? 1, 2, 3. Just 3. Okay. So how many alerts do you have, Upasana? You don't have my name on the alert. I'm disappointed. Okay, all right. Anyone else? How many do you have? About 3. And you, sir? 7. But all from your different, just one spot, one. Okay. So why don't you do this for me? Why don't you type the word alert on your Google search bar? I told you, if you know nothing else from today, this is the only thing you need to know. At least I get to show Randir one thing as well. Alert, Google alert. Like you've got to click back on all as well. Hey, otherwise it'll give you images. You can also set up your alert through Scholar. If you look at your Scholar page, you'll see it on the top. I'll show you the Scholar one just now. But basically, folks, what this is, as you guys can imagine, I have one set for Manchester United, right? And I have one set for the Proteas. If I follow cricket and football. I have one set for, never mind, I won't mention the actress's name. But I also have one set for e-voting, which is what I do. And so these are the types of things that you can set for yourself. You can put something on your favorite personality, on your favorite cause, on your favorite that. And by the way, you can and the searches. So if you're looking for biometric identification in elections and e-voting, it'll pass that for you and send you information. And when you set it up, it'll ask you how frequently do you want to get the information. So what I'd like you all to do is quickly type your own research area, your own interest. And what will happen is by next week, you will be changing it. As you get more experience, you will change the type. My few that I have, actually I don't have anything on Spot, by the way. I only have two. I have one on RFID, one on NFC, and one on e-voting. That are the only three things that I follow with some degree of seriousness. And I really want to know what research is happening in those three areas. So on a daily basis, I get the e-voting one, and on a weekly basis, I get the RFID and the NFC ones. And it gives me all the good research, the cool research that is happening there. And I don't read it every day. I normally read it I just keep all of it and read it on a Saturday or Sunday. But this is compulsory. You've got to do it. It's really going to help you. I know you probably go to the sites manually, but this one trawls the net for you every single morning or every single, depending on your period and your frequency, it'll trawl the net for you and find that information. All right, that one at the bottom there, that was my wife's master's topic. Her sub-area was nanotechnology, but she was looking at E551, whatever that means, and in food. So it was an additive in food, and she was looking at that. So if she just typed nanotechnology, she would have got everything that Randir wants to look at. And if she just typed food, she would have got everything that the food technologists want to look at. So by putting the and in there, it took us a long time to figure that combination of words, because we were trying E551 and nanotechnology. It took us into too technical. We tried food technology, and that search was generic enough and wide enough and yet narrow enough to help us. I hope I'm making sense. So I often laugh when I walk into someone's office and then we busy start discussing a mathematical problem, and they start shuffling around the desk looking for the calculator. And it's like almost counterintuitive, because you forget that Google is your calculator for free. If you type calculator in the Google search bar, it'll ask you if you want a standard calculator or a scientific calculator. But better still, if you in Google, if you just type whatever you want it to type for you, you can even type it in English. 7% of 15 million or 1.5 million, I forget what I write there. You just type whatever you want, and it'll do it for you. And this will help moms and dads that have assignments with the kids at school. Or you read a research paper, and then you see there's this fancy formula there, and it's a fairly straightforward formula, but you can't visualize it, and you need to visualize it in order to understand the theoretical framework that's being used for that, using that formula. So if you type the formula in Google, it will plot the formula for you. So those of you that haven't done it, please quickly type it now on the Google bar. Just type one of them. The reason you can see the thing here, this is 3x squared minus 3, okay? But you don't have a superscript, so you use that upside down. What do you call that character? Caret, thank you. There you go. You see, I learned something now. We call it a kapiki in this country, isn't it so? Did you get it? Okay, there you go. Right, so all of you happy, seen it? Right, so, and the formula can be as complex or as simple as you want. What I'm saying is, when you read your paper the next time you see a formula, instead of saying, I'm sure it's right, type it and try to visualize the data or that they're presenting you. And if your grade 8 or 9 or 7 or 10 kid has a problem, go to the other room, type that, look at the graph, and go back and help him. But don't tell him. Okay, we don't want them to get lazy. We want them to do the plotting the hard way. Okay, and besides, you look smart in his eyes, and I think that's not a bad thing. All right? So here's my thing, right? Victor travels a lot. I think he spent about 5 or 6 hours sitting in a plane the other day. I don't know what he was doing in the plane, or what he did to the plane, but he couldn't go anyway, apparently. Or was that in the USA? Right. How many of you could go and pick up people from the airport, or go and drop people at the airport? Right. So the thing about going to the airport to pick someone is such a chore. Firstly, the airport is far. Well, that's all right. But secondly, you don't quite know what time the plane is going to get there. And, it's kind of a bit of an irritating thing. So if you type the flight number on the Google search bar with a space, so BA053 or SA576, SA space 576, and you hit enter, it'll tell you what time the plane is about to land, whether the plane is still on track, whether you should leave home now, instead of you going and driving round and round the Bloomin' airport looking for parking. So you can go and have coffee somewhere, sit down, and even decide what time to leave home, because you remember, if the plane is late going to Joburg, it's going to be later coming back from Joburg. And then it just goes on and on and on for the rest of the day. So if you just type the flight number, it's in here, by the way, guys. So you type the flight number and it'll tell you, So that to me was like, oh, wow, that was such an interesting thing. But remember, you have to have the space. If you don't have the space, it gives you some other information. And sometimes you want to know the population of Durban or the population of Pietermaritzburg. If you just type the city name and the population, it'll give you a kind of a guesstimate. Now, folks, sometimes that guesstimate is way, way, way off, right? Because it's just a local search. Don't trust it. But if you're writing a column or you're using it for a speech or something like that, this type of information, it's easy, it's quick. You don't have to spend 10 minutes getting that. It's one line, one sentence. Okay. I'm about to go. I was just telling Randir, I got my passport. Yeah, I got to go try to get $700 today. I'm going to Indonesia this weekend, and that's what they allow you to get. The university is very cheap. They give you a small amount of money. So that's the amount I'm going to get, and I don't know how much rands I need to get at $700. So how would I do it, people? I mean, I could go there and type what? Currency conversion. But why don't you just type 100 USD in ZAR? So if you went into your Google search, okay, there you go. So it gives you information fairly automatically, right? So I'm going to need so the university will deposit, I would imagine, around about 10,000 rand into my account, which I would have to go and convert into dollars. Now I know how much of money to part with in order to get those dollars. Now what's useful about that is that you don't know which currency you're going to, whether you're going to Australia or wherever, and you can just type the source and the target in the search bar. It'll give you that information that you're looking for. And also if you're trying to compare prices when you're trying to buy something online. Right, so this is interesting. I'm not going to go through it, but I'm going to tell you this. So ladies and then the men that do bake and cook, you'll come across a lot of interesting old family recipes in your attic or in the case or the small box, and you remember that your grandmom used to make the thing, but they're all written in the old imperial system using cups of flour versus, I don't know what you'll use now, tablespoons of flour, teaspoons. But if you type 1.5 cups on Google, it'll actually give you a way of converting cups into millimeters, cups into tablespoons, cups into teaspoons. And it's very, very, very interesting because it means that you can even take your Google search bar into your kitchen now. You see? So move from your office to your kitchen now, right? So I think it's really, really incredible the amount of things that it can do from that point of view, right? You can type 6 ounces in cups and it'll tell you. You can type 2 pints in liters. So those of you that remember the word pints. Me, I only remember the word pints from the pub. And believe you me, when I leave the pub, I don't even know what the word pint means. But anyway. Right, so this is now, I was asking Victor yesterday how many time zones there was in his state, and he told me 3, if I remember correctly, just about 3. And I think you guys, as you grow academically in your careers, you're going to meet a lot of people from a lot of different time zones and a lot of different parts of the world. And because of technology like Skype and Zoom, you're going to end up talking to them a lot. And the most annoying thing for us as South Africans who never experienced this thing called time zone is to try to figure out the time zone for the rest of the world. So when I talk to people in Delhi or Brisbane or Ontario, or now we'll be talking to Vic in Indiana, we just type time, space, New Delhi, time, space, New York, time, space, London, time, space, Brisbane. And it'll tell you the time there now. So you don't have to go and figure out what Central African time is, Eastern time, and GMT and ABC time, whatever that means, you don't care. So it simply gives you a straightforward method of working out the time in a particular area. I promise you that that has saved me so many times, because when people send me time, they send me a meeting request sometimes with their time. Unless you use something like clever like Zoom, which will convert it into your local time, and it'll tell you what time you should be available in Durban for a particular meeting in New York. Right? So try that, guys. It's really, really useful. You can try it just now if you want, or you can try it now, I don't mind. My favorite one is, I was telling this to Randir last week, was that I often get to go to Cape Town and places like that. But hell, man, I end up getting there at about 6 o'clock in the evening. I spend 2 days in meetings, and I end up rushing from there at 4 o'clock in the afternoon to get a 7 o'clock flight to get back home. So I'm in Cape Town for 2 full days, never see anything except dark, and then food, and then pints, of course, naturally, and then home. But nothing of the city. So you start planning to say, how do you get to Cape Town early enough so that you could go for a walk around the city or something? So if you work out what time the sun is going to set in Cape Town today or tomorrow or whatever, you type sunset space Cape Town, it tells you what time sunset is. And if your significant other or you are a fisherman, you want to know what time the sun is going to rise in Port Shepstone, because apparently fish eat at sunrise. I don't know why they eat at sunrise. I thought they eat all the time, but fish eat at a particular time. And so you type sunrise space Port Shepstone, the sun is going to rise at 4:30 in the morning. You need to leave Durban at 3:30 to be there at 4:30, so you know what time to get up. So you can triangulate your activity. It works for every way. You can even, if you want to go to Dundee and you don't want to be there at night because you don't know the area, Dundee, sunset, space, Dundee, and you put ZA, otherwise it'll tell you that Dundee in the UK, and you know what to do. So these are things that are just useful in your life, maybe not as an academic, but as a person, okay? But I mean, for me, like my example of Cape Town, I always go to Cape Town and manage to get a walk around before I get drunk, right? So, right, and then sometimes you read a journal and an article, or sometimes you're writing an article, and you have this word blockage or your writer's block, and you read a word and you don't understand the word, or you read a word and you don't think the word is right in that context. Use this define command, please, right? I mean, it really, really is. It's very, very useful. And more than that, it tells you like synonyms and antonyms and all of that. So it will help you to understand the word, the meaning of the word, and maybe understand the way people use that word. And the next one is my favorite. So now I use this, let me be honest, I watch my wife using this with her son, right? And that'd be the truth, rather than me saying I do it with my son. My Afrikaans is completely somewhere else. Although I do understand all the cricket words in Afrikaans. If you just type that in the search engine, translate dog into Afrikaans. And if you try it right now, it'll tell you hunt, right? And if you type that phrase at the bottom there, translate the dog ate my breakfast into Afrikaans, it will do it. You can ask it to do it into other languages, Zulu or, and what's nice about that? Well, I spend a lot of time in Africa, going to all of the different places. And I always type that, good morning, how are you, into Swahili, so that I can greet people in the language that they would see that you made an effort. You might get it all wrong, and they laugh at you or with you, but you made an effort, okay? So I really like this type of thing. So if you are in a strange place and you got your smartphone with you, and like if you go to Paris, they'll never talk to you in English there. You have to figure the things out to say to them. You can get your, you don't have to go into Google Translate and just type that simple phrase that you're looking for and get it to help you. Okay, Google Maps you guys use, I'm not even going to talk about it. We spoke about, right? So when you're traveling somewhere, what do you want to know? You want to know what time the sun is going to set. You want to know what the weather is in there. So at 6 o'clock in the morning, or 5 o'clock in the morning, or 4 o'clock in the morning, when you're getting ready to take the 6 o'clock flight from King Shaka, you don't know what the weather is in Cape Town, and you overdress or underdress, and you end up in a hell of a mess because it's really, really difficult. And you're wearing the wrong clothes, and you got the right clothes in your bag. So if you take a few minutes and type the word weather in Cape Town at 4 o'clock in the morning before you put on your wardrobe, when you get to Cape Town, the chances are that you are adequately dressed with your other clothes in your bag. I use that. Okay, so sometimes, people ask you, what did Thomas Edison invent? And you know the story there, right? So you can do that. Now, we all know that Angelina Jolie, she's got children, right? Actually, she's got the whole United Nations as children, but she's got children. So you want to know her children's name? Angelina Jolie's children. It'll tell you. Let me give you a local example. Jacob Zuma's wives. Type Jacob Zuma's wives. Type it, please. Go ahead. Type it. Type it and see, please. Go ahead. It's not an exam. We just want to know his wife's name. Okay, it's an assessment. By the way, it will give you an answer of 4 or 5. That's not entirely true because it's gone to 6. Okay, all right. Let me stop there.
5 was yesterday.
Okay, there you go. Right. So, guys, sometimes you switch on your browser and you see, on the 18th of June, I think it was Madiba's birthday, came up with a jingle on Madiba and his life. Christmas time, you see another. We all know that's called a Google Doodle, right? Right. So now, has it ever occurred to you when you go home and you try to remind someone in your family about that doodle and you can't find it? Well, actually, Google kept it as a huge secret. So people, some fans of Google, of the doodles, started collecting the doodles. And they created their own archive. And Google, being an archiving company, doesn't like anyone else to archive for them. So they were eventually forced into archiving all of the doodles. So if you're looking for a doodle, go to the Google Doodle site, and type it there. Now, here's the funny thing about Google. You'd imagine that Google will forgive typing errors. For some odd reason, on the Google Doodle site, if you don't type whatever you're looking for exactly, it won't give it to you. I think they're just being cheeky. So they're saying you must know what you're looking for. So if you want to play Pac-Man, like you played Atari before, if you go to the Google website and you type Pac-Man and click on Insert Coin, you can play the game. Okay? I have a real Pac-Man machine in my office. An absolutely real arcade, the one that you saw in the shop. $2 a game, you're welcome to come and play. And I collect the money every month, so I cash it. And I got change for you, so don't worry. Okay. So guys, you're sitting on YouTube, and you're watching. And it says the best 7 commercials you've ever seen, right? And the one that attracted you was a picture of this girl with very little clothes. But they show you all the other one, the old lady, that, and you got to watch for 17 minutes before you get to the one. You know that one, right? Right. So the first trick you would use is, if you look at your keyboard, before I talk about that, let me talk about Randy's example yesterday. Randy said you must know X, C, and V. Okay? So everyone look down at your keyboard, right? And say after me, undo, cut, copy, paste. Right? Undo, cut, copy, paste. Memorize that. Undo, cut, copy, paste. Undo, cut, copy, paste. Control Z is undo. Control X is cut. Control C is copy. And Control V is paste. So those are the 4 left-hand bottom keys on your keyboard. Undo, cut, copy, paste. And lucky for us, the C helps us because the C is copy. Undo, cut, copy, paste. So let's talk about YouTube now. So you're watching a YouTube video, and you want to move forward. So if you look at your keyboard, your J, K, and L, okay? Your J is pointing this way. Your K is your midpoint. So your K is actually your pause button. Your J is to move backwards, and your L is to move forward, okay? As for some odd reason, some YouTube doesn't allow you to use the left arrow and the right arrow. So the J and the L helps you to move forward and backward in a particular video, okay? Now, talking about a particular video with what we call an event stamp. So if it says, watch the following 6 commercials and you want to watch commercial number 4, you launch it, and then you press number 4. And it will automatically move the 4th one there. So start playing with your videos, press 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And if it listens to you, that means that someone has had the foresight to date stamp or time stamp that particular video. Am I confusing you? You get it? Okay, so you launch YouTube, right? And YouTube says that you can watch the 6 commercials, the 6 best commercials ever. But you actually want to watch commercial number 5. Now you have to keep pressing J, or L to move forward, or the right arrow. It takes a long time, right? And it's annoying. So what YouTube has done is they've allowed you to use a number to identify it. So if you press 1, it'll take you to the first break, 2 to the second break, 3 to the beginning of the third break, 4 to the beginning of the 4th break, so that it'll automatically take you to that particular one. Once again, it's a touch and feel thing, so see which sites allow you to do that. Okay, they're all here. Oh, this one I really like. This is my favorite. Again, the second thing I want you to remember from today, right? First one was Google Alerts. This one here, I use a lot of videos in my work. I find it interesting, and I also like to download them so I can watch them. I'm a cheapskate, so I download it at work and I go home and watch it, right? I mean, the kids finish my bandwidth before the week is over, let alone the month, right? And they watch all these Chinese things, the animes and all of that. Now, me, I want to watch, Charlize Theron and all the other important things. But so what you do there is you go to your video that you are watching, right? Let's say Charlize Theron. That's a good video to watch. So you type her name, and the video is playing. And it'll say www.youtube on the top, / some crazy numbers, right? Or some file name. You go to the word YouTube, move your arrow to the beginning of the word YouTube, and you type SS. Don't ask me what SS stands for. But you just type SS in front of the word YouTube. There, can you see it? And you hit enter, and guess what? It'll automatically bring up a screen and says, do you want to download this? And you say yes. So you don't have to go and download some freeware and any other way or anything like that. Any machine that has YouTube on it, you can download it by simply going to the first 2 letters after the dot, www.ss YouTube. Okay. And the trouble with most of these downloading video software that I come across, they come complete with virus. Right? Or if it doesn't come with virus, it comes with adware, and it just annoys you after you download it. This way, you're not downloading anything. And by the way, that thing will ask you to download something else. Don't. Just say download. All right. You want to try it quickly, or you can try it later? Okay. That's fine. You'll try it on your own, right? Okay, minus, I've already told you about that, right? And as you can see, when I look at football, I do it without those other 2 teams, those unmentionables. Right? Unit conversion I spoke to you about as well. If you come across papers with degrees, Fahrenheit, and centigrade, you can just use those commands there. 78C to F. All of you have a science background here, I think. So you know what that means. It'll allow you to convert. You can convert all kinds of numbers to all kinds of numbers. I'm not even going to explain that to you. If you don't know what it is, don't worry about it. Right? As long as you know how to convert Fahrenheit to Celsius, you can, as an example, you can type 104 F to C, and it should give you 36, 36.4, something like that, right? Your body temperature. Okay? Okay, now I already showed you these, so I'm just going to go through that. So I put these things in here like deliberately, and I tell you why I did it deliberately. Before Victor goes today or tomorrow, he's going to take this file with him. This is fun. Go and try this. Try this when you go home. Don't do Facebook tomorrow, do this. Okay? Type Google Feud on your search engine and go and do that. And the reason I put them all into different categories is as you find a new trick in the category, if you can type in your trick and send it to me so that I could keep it as a live copy and people can learn from each other. So we're going to make this effort of documenting Google even though they don't like it. Right. Now, I'm going to stop at that point, and now we're going to talk about what's on your hands, right? So Rabi kind of stopped me yesterday, and he said, male infertility. Or what? No, he was positive. He said, male fertility. How are we going to have this guy? And I had an infertile moment because I just couldn't answer the question. moves and the red, the red lights, and someone says, how do you do this? And suddenly, do what? So I went home and I started thinking about it. And I said, how can I present one case to you guys so that we can go through this together so that you kind of get this whole search business? Now, the search thing that we're going to go through here has a whole lot of steps. And the thing that I want to tell you is you can try this in Google Scholar as well as Google. Right? I generally, my mode of operation in finding information is I'm naughty. So I start with Wiki. I go to Wiki where everyone tells you not to go. Right? I go there first. And I learn because I'm lazy. Right? Because somebody took the time and trouble to write that stuff there, and I take the trouble to be lazy enough to read the stuff. Right? And I also am careful enough to know that it could not be true or may not be true. From Wiki, I go to Google. From Google, I go to Scholar. I do it in that order. So in the beginning, I have the whole kind of Wiki knowledge, then the Google knowledge, and then the Scholar knowledge. Because when I go to the Scholar and I try to learn something, I get overwhelmed. The word, the vocabulary, the terseness of the expression, it kind of, you really need to be in that space to be able to read like that. And it takes you a while to get into that academic space to think like the authors that they are writing. Am I right? Right? So try that, right? So that's my mode of operandi. And I thought of this interesting problem here. So the problem statement is I want credible information about the outbreak of avian flu. And I thought that would be a nice little statement if you got it on your sheet there, right? So I said, okay, how do we unpack that statement? Right, well, what are the keywords in there? The keywords are credible, right? Is that reasonable? Because, I mean, whatever credible means. We want an outbreak, whatever outbreak means. I mean, outbreak means the number of cases. And of course, the overarching one was avian flu. And all of you know that in South Africa right now we're in flu season. So if we type the word flu, it's going to come up with the common the influenza and all of the other things that we have. So now you take the words from your search and you put it into a little box and you start saying, well, how do you get to the word outbreak and how do you unpack the word avian flu? Now, if you start thinking about flu in itself carefully enough, firstly you want to separate or make mutually exclusive human versus animal. And then South Africa, how many kinds of flu do you know about? Think about it in South Africa. We have a queen flu. Right, the horse flu. We have ostrich fever. There's even swine flu. Right, so there's a whole lot of different types of flu that had happened, but they will all influence the search on avian flu. But we're only looking for avian flu. We're not looking for swine flu. We're not looking for equine flu. We're not looking for ostrich flu. And these are all, or even human flu. So how do you now start doing that? Right? So you can see that it's a very small problem statement, but it unpacks into something fairly substantial. So remember what I said now in terms of looking at using the or the and. And what was the golden rule? Or must be in capital letters, right? And the tilde, the tweak thing that you see there, is another word for similar, okay? So if you had to, guys, and I want you to start, if you guys can start at step number 4, right? And I'd like you to go to Google Scholar or Google, and please type in those ones, and Yassine and I will walk around and just make sure that you get to it. Ah, yes, of course, you're volunteering as well. Thank you. Very nice of you. So you can start from step number 4 and talk to the person next to you and see if you are following the logic. Now, it sounds like I'm doing a big multiplication table there, right? But what did I do? I said it's avian flu or bird flu, and I threw Google. By the way, I thought it was H151, but it's H5N1. 151 is a human one, right? Okay, it doesn't matter. It doesn't relate to us. But H5N1 is the search that we are looking for. So if you can type avian or bird or H5N1, and as you type that search there for step number 3 or step number 4 and you go to step number 5, I'd just like you to record on that page the number of searches that you managed to find and see what impact each successive step has on the search. Okay, our task was to go back to the male fertility problem, was to say we got star dot star, and how do you create star dot star into a 2 or 3 pages of information that you can read? That's our point, right? So you can think about your own problem now and start thinking about how you could write your search criteria in this way. And you'll notice that although it looks complex, It's actually quite logical if you look at the table and you look at the first criteria quite carefully. And you're welcome to either call me and ask me a question about this, or just ignore me and do your own thing. Making sense? Yep. This is the last example. Okay, so there's very useful input from here to say that when you do go to Wiki, and that's the one thing that I always do, I use Wiki to give me the reference sites for the source that I go to. So it's very, very useful. And also, but also be careful, because Wiki has a lot of rogue researchers who create their own references to back their own work. So you can get egg on your face. Oh, no, you got to type this, that. Yeah, the whole thing, yeah, right? Everything is significant, right? So whatever is in bracket. And if you look at that, you see it's avian or bird or H1, 3 days, it's on there. Avian, bird, H1. Okay. Yeah.
As well.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
So
Yeah. So we're looking at this table here, right? Look at that. We see flu or influenza, avian or bird or H1. There's the avian, bird, H1. You see, so it's all right. So in
the keywords,
yeah. So colleagues, as you can see, as you go through each step in the Interrogate, there's a new kind of beat to it. Right? So if you had to look at step 12 or step 13, it's overwhelming. But if you start from step 4 and you work forward towards step 12, I think it's fairly logical, and it will help you hopefully in your data search and your literature search and your literature review and in the other things that you do. Yeah, it does get upset with you because normally people just type one thing. So Google wants to know why you're going so clever now. Yeah. It always does that to me. You find that Google gets a little bit suspicious of you. It'll ask you if you're a robot, but don't worry, because it thinks you're too smart now because of the nature of the query. No, that must be capital. Oh. Yeah, this one. No, that must be. No, I meant in English, not OR. It must be that OR. Yeah.